Hey guys, coming against my review for the season of Fuller House. Yes, I just finished it. Only took me 2 days to finish it, which is pretty crazy. But it took me 2 days to finish Love. Took me one day to finish BoJack Horseman. It should come as much of a surprise. I binged this very quickly. I knew I was going to do that, and overall, you guys know from the first episode, I really did enjoy the show. I was a bit worried though that it was gonna get bad because I heard the first episode's very strong while the rest aren't. And I have to say, after watching the full season, this show definitely has some duds, and it's not perfect, but I couldn't help but enjoy it. I love these characters. I really have loved Full House. I always will, and I really thought this was a very strong show. It was much better than it could have been. Really, I think they really put the efforts into this, and like I said, there are some issues with this show overall. But let me just get into the season overall because there is a lot to get into. Surprisingly, a lot to get into, but I really think they did do a good job. First of all, I want to talk about some of the things that I thought they did very well. Is that, basically something I really love in the first episode was the nostalgia, but I wasn't worried that it would get a bit too heavy handed. But I think some of the jokes really weren't too bad. I mean, in the first episode, they had that ridiculous thing where they all looked to the camera when they said Michelle wasn't there, and they had all these ridiculous catchphrases, which I did think they used those a bit too much, but I think for the most part, the nostalgia, it was good what they did, and I like that. And then the way they put the original cast to use, I thought was very good. Like, for example, we'd have an episode where the girls are going for an all-girls night out, and they have Joey babysits Ramona, Max, and Jackson. Or we have Jesse coming back, Jesse coming back because he forgot something, or Danny coming back because he's doing a thing for his show. Just ways they did that, it didn't feel like they were forced in. It felt like there was a reason for them to be back, and I definitely enjoyed that. I was worried that that was going to detract from um the show, and it really never did. So that's something I definitely do want to talk about. But let's get into everything that happened because there is a lot. As we know, at the end of the first episode, DJ, Stephanie, and Kimmy decided that they're moving in. They did not, however, tell Max and Jackson that Kimmy and Ramona are moving in. And of course, Kimmy didn't tell Ramona as well. So obviously, there's that huge conflict to deal with. And the way the DJ was kind of just making things for Jackson or giving him breakfast or things like that, I thought was a bit silly, but it went with the character overall. She's always kind of been that way. And Ramona's joke about them being the whitest family in America probably one of the funniest jokes of this entire season. I thought that her jokes were great, and the actress that plays Ramona, whatever her name is, I think that she was really great throughout this entire season. I really think she did a great job. And out of the three kids, she is by far my favorite. She's the only one that I didn't start not liking. I always like Ramona, and I think she's just a very strong character. This is a really great actress. And yes, at points, her Spanish stuff, that's her heritage. I can't really say it's annoying because that's where her heritage is. And that's just the thing. She is, Hispanic, as we know, because of Fernando and things like that. And I thought that was fine they did that. And then basically what ends up happening is they make living arrangements. Jackson and Max basically get their own room, which Jackson at first does not like. And then Ramona gets her own room, which Jackson is very upset about because he wanted his own room. And Ramona gets her own room, basically, which, he obviously wasn't happy about because it's his old room that she has. And they try to bond, basically. They try to bond very well. But Jackson does something completely different than DJ did. He ends up leaving. Like, he literally ends up leaving the house and going into Jesse's car, which he has a very fun pep talk with Jesse, which I like seeing with Jesse telling him that he needs to, what Jesse telling him what he needs to do and everything. And I like that they kind of made note of what DJ did, but like DJ said, she just, simply moved to the attic. He literally left, and I thought that was pretty crazy that we saw that. And at this point, I really was not a fan of Jackson, I have to say. I did not like Jackson throughout most of this season, and out of the three, he probably is my least favorite. I definitely will say that. I think he's very cocky, and I don't think that he's, like, confident, kid. 13-year-olds, most of them are annoying, but this isn't like 13 regular annoying. This is more like cocky, bad boy, just I don't like Jackson. I really don't. And throughout the season, there are some things they do with him that I like, but there were a lot of things I didn't. So luckily they do have a talk, and they basically decide to start out and they get the house and everything. So that's what happens with that. And then a lot of the episodes aren't very serialized. They're much more like, just one off episodes. And I was fine with it because Full House was that way. But there definitely are some continuity issues with this show. And I definitely will say that. And and I will get into that definitely. But as we go on with Jackson's character, we do start to learn some more things about him. He starts acting very rebellious. There's an episode where he literally sets off the fire alarm to save Ramona, which I gotta say, that friendship was very phoned in. I never really saw a lot of chemistry between those two, and I really was never a fan of Ramona and Jackson. And, I like Ramona, but I don't really like Jackson. And that whole thing, I liked it. It got better as it went on, but in that episode especially, I just didn't feel it. It wasn't really, that dynamic was not really there for me. But he does end up saving Ramona, and he has this talk with DJ. DJ's asking, why he's acting out and things like that, why he's been acting this way. And he talks about how, their dad Tommy, he hasn't been around and he's just, he's acting out because that, which is honestly kind of realistic because a way of, dealing with grief is acting out, being rebellious. That's exactly what Jackson is doing. And I think they showed that very well there. And I definitely really did enjoy that. So once that happened, I started to like Jackson's character a little bit more. I definitely will say that. And then Max as well. I really started to tolerate Max more towards the 5th episode of the show. Because Max, I thought, got a lot better in the 5th episode. What happened with him definitely, I thought, was a lot stronger. So, at first I thought he was a bit of a know-it-all, just him referencing, things, and acting just like this know-it-all kid that knows a lot about science and history and things like that. But then towards the 5th episode, I really started to see this cute side of him. Like, he's just a cute little kid. He really is. And I like seeing that about his character. He had some very funny lines, and I overall really did enjoy Max at points. I thought he was very funny. At points, there were some times where he was annoying, but most of the time, I really did enjoy him. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get to the main storylines this season. The first big thing is, of course, with DJ. DJ, as we know, who think probably is the most fleshed out character of this season. Either her or Kimmy, definitely. They're the two most fleshed out characters. DJ, pretty much as we know, now she's lost her husband, and she's still dealing with that, definitely. But Stephanie and Kimmy are encouraging her to date. Why exactly? I don't know. Give her some time to grieve. I mean, I understand they want to get over, her husband, but come on, just give her some time to grieve. I mean, Kimmy ends up putting her on this dating profile. We do get this really funny scene where DJ calls a plumber, and it's a guy in her dating profile, and he mistakes fixing her pipes as something else, which I thought was very funny the way they did that. But, basically Kimmy tries to get her to date, and then, of course, at when she's a veterinarian, because I did forget to say in the pilot that she is a veterinarian, she has this guy, Matt, who she works with, and her and Matt start to get very close, because they talk a lot, and you can tell that Matt definitely does like her, but like I said, they definitely do start to get quite close, especially in, the, especially in the 4th episode. You can tell right away that these two definitely have chemistry, and Matt definitely does like her. And at one point, they do end up kissing. They end up kissing, and it's a huge thing. And DJ doesn't really know how to deal with all this because, again, she's still dealing with the death of her husband, and she doesn't really know how to move on from this and everything. And her and Matt, I like this arc overall. I like seeing Matt care for her. I will say this was a bit rushed, but I thought it was well done overall. Just having them kiss out of nowhere. I'm not a fan, by the way, the audience, oohing and ahhing like this huge deal. Oh my god, they kiss. Like, they make it seem like a huge deal. Sometimes it worked and then sometimes didn't. I understand that Full House did that, but no other show really does that nowadays. I really thought it was stupid that they did that. I don't know why they did that. I thought that was kind of stupid, honestly. But, basically, DJ, she's really conflicted between Matt, but then there's also Steve, who I did forget to say is not actually married. He's now divorced, and he's still pining for DJ, you can tell. You can see he's still pining for her, and I can understand that. I understand that, that was his first love, and he even brings up in an episode that, there are all these people that say they might drift apart in high school, but then they find their way back to each other, and that's how he feels about DJ. He always feels like they're meant to be together and things like that, which, again, that is a bit of fan service, because I know that people always did want those two back together, but basically you can tell, is still after her, and she doesn't really know what to do. She has these two guys who she's after, and she doesn't really, who both like her, and they both have really good qualities to them, and she doesn't really know which one she likes more. She really can't tell. All of a sudden, it just seems like she has these two guys pining for her, and she doesn't really know what to do. And there's this great part in an episode where they end up at the door. They both realize that they need to talk, and once they discover each other, that's really when it starts to get very funny, especially when they try to convince DJ. They try to talk to DJ about why they're the better one for her. Very funny scene, especially when they end up trying to kiss her and they end up kissing each other. A very funny scene. Definitely really enjoyed that. I think they did that very well. I really did enjoy what they did with that. But like I said, DJ's very conflicted. She doesn't really know what to do. She basically ends up going on different dates with them here and there, trying to figure out what works out. She ends up going on a date with Matt. It works out very well. But then the one with Steve, they just get very close. And something I love about episode 12, which by far is my favorite episode of the season, I have to say, and her and Steve, you really do see that chemistry. Even though they drifted apart, they still are really great friends. And at first, it was like, just keep them as friends. But after that scene, after the episode 12, I gotta say, I would want to see these two back together. If it had to be between Matt and Steve, definitely Steve. I think Steve is definitely better for her. He has a lot more reasons for them to be together. And Matt, she doesn't really know as well. This is just a guy she works with. I mean, she doesn't really know much more about him than she works with him and that he likes her. And we don't know a lot about Matt either. We know a lot more about Steve, and those two always had a thing for each other. I think they should definitely be together. And that episode where they do end up getting together, and they do end up going on this date, was very sweet. I really liked it. I like how he tried to bring her back to the 90s. Just really good stuff there overall, and I definitely really did enjoy that. So then she's very conflicted, and then she does eventually make a decision. I will get to that in the finale, but that's pretty much everything that goes on with DJ. And then let's get to Stephanie, who there's some continuity issues with Stephanie, definitely. Stephanie, I feel, is the most underused character of this season, without a doubt. I mean, she has stuff to do, but not enough, especially compared to DJ and Kimmy. She really does not have a lot to do. We do get some really good stuff with her. First of all, I like seeing Stephanie as this DJ Tanner, which I'd never really talked about in the first episode. Her DJ name is DJ Tanner, which I think is pretty funny. But as we see throughout the show, she tries to go with different guys, doesn't really seem to be working, and we eventually see she has grown this attachment to all the kids. And obviously, she's very, she doesn't really know how to feel about going back to the house because, of course, her dislikement for Kimmy and her not really liking Kimmy that much. Her and Kimmy do start to connect, though. It's actually kind of funny the way that they end up connecting, which I did like seeing. But the biggest thing with Stephanie is she starts to grow an attachment to all the kids, and DJ asks why she's growing such an attachment, and she ends up giving up this, gig that she had with this very famous, I think she was a producer or something like that. I don't really remember, but she gives it up, and DJ is shocked because, this was her chance of getting a real job. And of course, everyone was wondering, why would Stephanie just give this up? And then the big revelation comes out, which is probably the most genuinely emotional moment of this season, which I really thought was very well handled, that Stephanie can't have kids. She can't have kids, and that was a huge reveal, which I thought was very well handled, and it didn't feel phoned in. This felt very genuine. It worked for her character. It made sense as to why she ditched her job, and Jodie Sweetin really sold her performance here. I really think she did a great job. She basically talks about how she can't have kids, and that, she realized it when she was in when she was in London, and she never said anything about it because she just didn't, she didn't really want to bring it up and things like that. And you see that she really did grow an attachment to all the kids. I like seeing that, and I like seeing her really just try to be a parent to them. I like, try to be like a second mother. I definitely thought that was very good, and I really did enjoy seeing Stephanie on the show. She did a very good job. But like I said, there are some continuity issues. For example, there's an episode where she talks about how she can't get a guy, and then all of a sudden the next episode she has a guy, and that really didn't work at all for me, because you're just talking about how you can't get a guy, and then all of a sudden you have a boyfriend, and that didn't make sense at all. I didn't really know why they did that. And then throughout the season, she does do a lot of, she does do a lot of gigs as a DJ and things like that. But I just really felt her character overall didn't really have a lot to do. And I was a bit surprised because I really thought, okay, this is Stephanie Tanner. She should have a lot to do. But that, for me, she didn't really have a lot to do, and I really want to see her have more to do, but she really didn't, and I was a bit upset that she didn't have as much to do. She could have a lot more to do, but she really didn't, and I was a bit surprised that she really didn't have a lot to do there, but she didn't. And By far, though, the one that has the most to do is Kimmy. Kimmy definitely has the most to do. DJ has a lot to do as well because she is the main character, but Kimmy definitely has a lot more to do than Stephanie. Um, Stephanie, like I said, besides that one revelation, doesn't really have a ton to do. We do realize that she wants to become a singer. She does want to become a singer, but they don't really go anywhere with that. It's brought up in like episode 10, and then they kind of just, it goes away. So I don't know if that's a legit thing, but it really seems like for me they had an arc with Stephanie and then they just didn't really know what to do with her. So that's really something they need to figure out. What are they going to do with her? Because like I said, there definitely were some continuity issues, and I do think the show would have benefited a bit more if it had been a little bit more serialized, which in some cases it were, but in a lot of cases it weren't. And I do think with something like that, it should have been a bit more. But then with Kimmy, Kimmy has actually a lot going on because, of course, Fernando, who at first I didn't like, but throughout the season, I really saw him as this big softy. Like, he really does care for Kimmy, Kimberlina, who I think is hilarious that he calls her Kimberlina like that, things like that. I do like Fernando overall, and he is a good father to Ramona, although he does, kind of spoil her a bit, and you can definitely tell Ramona was spoiled. Something I definitely liked about the show was seeing DJ and Kimmy's different kinds of parenting. Kimmy's much more laid back, she's very laid back, she's very just like, slipping, things like that. She's very just casual when it comes to parenting. She doesn't really treat Ramona like a daughter, she treats her more like a friend, and that's why they have such a good bond. And I like the scene where DJ tells Kimmy, "Look, you can't treat your daughter this way. You gotta be tough, and you gotta understand how to do that." And that's clearly something that Kimmy hasn't done. And I like the way that that was handled. I think they did that very well. And then throughout the season, we get some things with Gibbler style and Kimmy having to do things with Gibbler style, things like that. But eventually, Fernando does come back into her life, and they do end up kissing. They end up kissing, and basically, they end up kissing at Ramona's birthday party, which this is after Ramona wishes for them to get back together. That's what she wishes the most of all, which Ramona's birthday party, definitely one of the funniest episodes of the season, where Ramona has this birthday party planned, and it ends up going completely wrong, which I thought was pretty funny. And they did a good job of that episode of not making it too much like DJ's birthday party, 13th, a 13th birthday. If you remember that episode, it's very different, and I thought that was definitely really great that they did that, because they could have easily made it like that episode, and they really didn't, which I was happy about, because I was worried it was going to be like that episode, and it really wasn't. It was much different, and I like seeing that, because, there are some episodes that are definitely trying to be like a tribute to other episodes, but this one I didn't think was like that. I thought they did pretty well with this, but after this, they end up falling asleep watching a movie, which referenced to the apartment episode, but not really, kind of a reference there. And for whatever reason, I don't really know why, Kimmy decides to hide this from DJ. Maybe it's because DJ doesn't like Fernando or whatever, but DJ also hides the secret from Kimmy that she's still with Matt, and eventually the secret comes out. Kimmy does tell DJ, and basically they don't really know what to do. You can tell that Kimmy now has an attraction to Fernando, and throughout the season it seems like these two are on the verge of getting back together, which Ramona is very happy about, because you can tell it's the one thing that Ramona wants out of everything. Out of everything, Ramona wants these two to get back together, and you can definitely tell that's gonna, they could get back together. But what ends up happening is basically Fernando basically goes up to her, sings her this song, and it's a really nice song. I definitely like the way that song was done. But then he gives her the divorce papers, and I was surprised that he did this, but I like what he said, that this is what she wanted more than anything. She wanted him to give her those divorce papers. She wanted to sign them, and for 2 years she's wanted this. He's finally going to give it to her because he loves her, and she signs them, but then they decide to get married again, and that's where we go to the season finale, which I will definitely get into. But that's pretty much what happens with Kimmy this season. Like I said, there's a lot that happens with her, and I also gotta say, I really did love the chemistry between the three girls. And even though we do focus on the kids in the show, the main focus, of course, are the three girls, and I think they work very well together. I like their chemistry overall, and I did like how Stephanie and Kimmy kind of bonded over DJ's, torn between Matt and Steve, which I thought was pretty funny. How Stephanie was team Steve and Kimmy was team Matt. I thought that was pretty, or the other way around. I can't really remember which one it was, but I thought that was pretty funny. The way that they made fun of the Bachelorette, I thought was very fun, and I definitely enjoyed that. Let's get to the humor of this season, because like I said, I think some of the humor worked very well here. There was some that really didn't, but a lot of the humor in terms of the nostalgia, things like that, I think they worked that very well. I definitely enjoyed seeing that. Like a lot of it worked and a lot of it didn't, but most of it for the most part did, and I think they did a really good job with the humor. They didn't make it too silly. There were some episodes that weren't very good. Like for example, my least read episode of the season, without a doubt, is Max wanting to go to this is Jackson wanting to go to this Mucha Lucha like wrestling thing, and DJ kind of steps in to save Max. It was a ridiculous episode. I really was not a fan of it, and out of all the episodes, by far my least favorite of the season. I mean, it wasn't just annoying, it was kind of boring, and I really was not a fan of it. So that definitely, things like that didn't work as well for me. But I did think they did a good job of not making DJ, Stephanie, and Kimmy too much like Danny, Joey, and Jesse, because I was worried they were going to do that, but they really didn't do that. I mean, there are parts where DJ says, oh, I'm turning into dad. Like, they even make fun of things like Danny hugging them or things like that. There were some fun jokes here and there. Like, for example, when Jesse comes in, he says, oh, I remember this, I remember sad moments happen all the time, usually with violins in the background. We all remember that cheesy background music that always played when there was a sad scene, and I'm glad to say it isn't in the show. They actually make fun of it, and I like that. I thought that was very funny in episode 2. One of the funniest jokes of the season by far. Or them making fun of the fact that Stephanie saying, oh, I remember doing this with Michelle, but for whatever reason, I think there was 2 of them. Them making fun of that, I thought was very funny. Just all the jokes they had, I thought were really great. A lot of the nostalgia was very strong. I definitely enjoyed that, and they didn't make it too heavy-handed. It didn't detract from the show, like I said. Like, the appearances, I thought worked pretty well. Like, for example, Joey, when he came back, I like the fact that he really didn't appeal, his humor did not appeal to these kids, because there's much more funnier stuff out there, and it's true. Joey's brand of humor would not really be funny nowadays, and I understand why Ramona, Jackson, and Max didn't find it funny, because there's just so much more stuff they can find on their phones, and they have so much more access to technology, and I think that's something else that benefited really well from the show, is the fact that it is modern, and it's much different than Full House. You know, now that they have phones, things like that, there's definitely more with that, and I thought that was done very well. And then Jesse coming back, I thought was really great. I definitely did enjoy this stuff, like I said, the stuff with Jesse. And then when Becky came back, I loved when she came back and basically had this, just it's just this sudden, like, wanting to take care of Tommy, just this obsession with Tommy all of a sudden. She wants to be, she's like obsessed with babies all of a sudden. I thought was very funny, and it makes sense because she kind of doesn't have much more excitement in her life, like she says, and by having Tommy, she does have some excitement. I thought that was well done. Or Danny coming back when they were trying to fix the couch. I thought all of those were very good. Danny's definitely being the strongest, I have to say. But of all the appearances, I thought they were all done very well, and I definitely enjoyed that. What I didn't like as much were some of the catchphrases coming back. That didn't really work as well for me. I definitely will say that. The catchphrases just didn't really work. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the catchphrases. Like DJ constantly saying, oh my Lanta. She said that in one season, okay? One season, and then it just went away. Actually, no, seasons 2, 3, and 4 is when she said, oh my Lanta. It went away after that. I don't know why it was back here. It felt like that was complete fan service, and Stephanie saying how rude. I mean, they're grown women. They would not say that. Max's catchphrase, holy chalupas, I'm glad that went away because that was never funny. I thought that was annoying, and that's one of the reasons I didn't like his character. But now let's get into the season finale, because I do want to get into it, because there's actually a lot that happened. If you guys haven't seen the season finale, don't watch the rest of the review, because I'm going to spoil it. So the season finale, really good stuff overall. I definitely did enjoy season finale. There was that one really weird scene of Stephanie singing that song and everyone close up looking at each other, and Joey professing his love to Mr. Woodchuck. I mean, just a very strange scene overall. But I really did like what they did with this finale. It was a very strong finale overall. As we know, Kimmy is going to get married to Fernando. He wants to get married right away. At the same time, Becky and Jesse want to renew their wedding vows. And at first, Jesse's not really sure if he wants to have this on the same day as them renewing their wedding vows, but he ultimately agrees to it. But they find out that Fernando, after, they get married, he wants them to move back. He doesn't want her to live with the Fullers anymore. He wants them to move back, and it's kind of sad, because you do see this dynamic between the 3 girls, and they basically decide to have the greatest night of their life. They basically go to this bachelorette party with Becky, and they end up getting very drunk, end up drunk dialing Michelle, which I thought was very funny, that prank call with Michelle. Just the fact they were using all of her catchphrases again, I really loved, and Kimmy, basically, she's ready to get married. She doesn't really know if she can do it, but then all of a sudden, at the wedding, she starts to get cold feet. She starts to get cold feet, and eventually she realizes she just can't marry she can't marry Fernando, even though she likes Fernando and she wants to move forward with it. She can't give up her position in this house. This is what she likes to do. She's grown fondness to all the kids, and she just can't lose it. And I understand that. I mean, she just can't lose that, connection to all of them, and she wants to be with them, and I like seeing that. And it makes sense why she's not going to jump into things with Fernando. I mean, these two just now started to get closer and started to form a connection. And while I think these two should date, they definitely should not get married. It is something that Ramona wants, but right now, at least they're together. At least they're on good terms, and I like seeing that. So overall, that does not end up going as Fernando wants, but he is happy overall that she does decide to not go into it, and basically, she ends up not getting married, while DJ, meanwhile, is very torn between Matt and Steve, which, again, I love all the Bachelorette references. I thought those were pretty funny. I will say this love triangle was a bit much. It did just get a bit crazy because you have Matt, who she's only known for, she's known for a while, but she's known Steve way longer, and it really didn't seem like there was much of a competition here. I mean, Matt really does care about her, but Steve she's known him longer, and there is that line where Matt says, "Oh, you knew her since high school," but yeah, they've known each other since then. They've reconnected, things like that. I mean, I thought that was definitely well done, and I thought they did that very well. But she doesn't end up picking either of them, and I'm not surprised. I mean, she basically says that I choose myself. I'm just not ready she says that she's just not ready to jump into something so quickly. She wants to date, but she doesn't want to be committed to anyone, and it makes sense. I mean, she's just now grieving, and she hasn't even lost her husband for a while. She definitely needs some time to process it. Season 2, I think, is definitely when she's going to make the choice, and I don't think this is over. I think she definitely is going to make the choice, and if the show does get renewed for season 2, I definitely think that's where it's going to go, and I'm definitely interested in seeing what's going to happen with that. But I'm glad that DJ decided not to pick either of them because, one, it would have gotten some people upset, because, if she wouldn't have picked Steve, everyone would be really upset about that. But two, I think it's also good for her because she needs to focus on herself, focus on who she is, how she can get over this death, and then she can move on. I think they really did that better here than they did in the first season of Full House. We heard about Pam here and then, but we didn't really hear about her as much as we did in Fuller House with Tommy. We've heard about, Tommy a lot more. You can tell that DJ really had a connection towards him, and obviously he was her husband and everything, so she really loved him, and it's just sad to see, and I think they really handled all that very well, and I really enjoyed that. So that's pretty much everything that happens this season, which I thought was very well handled. Also, I love the fact that Jesse and Becky just, got out of there because they wanted to leave. I thought that was pretty funny, and it made sense why. Obviously, the wedding went on, 3 times, which was kind of a reference to when Jesse and Becky were going to get married in Vegas, if you remember. There was that, but there also, I think, was kind of the reference to DJ wanting to focus on herself in, season 8, DJ's Choice, when she doesn't pick either Nelson or Viper, if you remember. This same thing kind of happened there, but this was different. She had a genuine reason for doing this. That I felt was just forced, they couldn't really decide who they wanted to be with, or maybe they just realized the storyline wasn't working, but this I thought was a lot stronger, and I liked seeing Steve and Matt on good terms. I'd rather not see these two at each other's throats. I'm looking forward to seeing them maybe just be nicer towards each other, and I like that. So overall, guys, I really did enjoy this first season. Like I said, there definitely were some things that didn't work as well, and not all the cameos did work. Like Harry Takayama being back, I thought was really stupid. The fact that Stephanie still keeps in contact with him, okay, I understand that, but her thinking that he still loves her and things like that, that really did not work for me, and then him inviting her to the wedding just ultimately was kind of pointless. I don't really know why we did that, and I understand she thought that he might have sent the roses and things like that. Also, I love seeing Becky in that episode, just want to get every detail what was going on, just love the drama and everything. I thought that was very funny. I definitely really enjoyed that. But something else that worked very well in the show that I was surprised about were the genuine emotional moments. A lot of them worked very well. Like I said, the Stephanies not being able to have babies, things like that. I thought that was very good. But then some of the moments, like them talking about Tommy or them wanting to remember Tommy, just some really genuine moments like that, I really did enjoy, and I think they handled all those very, very well because, they were just really genuine moments. I'm not saying that Full House didn't, but Fuller House, I think, just did a lot better, and I definitely really did enjoy that. And first of all, there was the fact that Full House, had the annoying dramatic music, so it was very hard to take a lot of that seriously. But here, I thought it worked much better, and I definitely really enjoyed that. And That's something I thought was really great. Is this show great? No, it's a very strong show. It's very fun. I definitely will say that. And it was funny. I laughed at a lot of the jokes. I thought it was very funny for the most part. The live audience didn't really bother me. At first it did, but then as I went on with the show, I'm just like, okay, the live audience is fine. I did think the live audience went a bit over the top, just laughing at everything. Some things that weren't as funny as the live audience thinks they were. And I know that, of course, probably it's, that the producers told them to laugh at it because they thought it was funny, things like that. But some of it, like I said, just didn't work as well for me as it should. But overall, guys, I really did enjoy this first season. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Is this show as good as Full House? No, I don't think it's as good as Full House. And I didn't really think it would be. I think that Full House is just a show that is just such a big part of my childhood that I could never say it's better than Full House. And maybe season 2 will be stronger. And I'm not saying that season 1 was bad. There were just a lot of things that I think would have been better. Maybe have a more serialized format, or have some of the characters not be as underutilized. Like, for example, have Stephanie have more to do. Because in the end, oh, I forgot to talk about Jackson. How did I forget about this? I don't know why I forgot about this. Jackson ends up getting this attraction to this girl Lola that Ramona is friends with and everything. I don't know why I forgot about this, but I just did. Jackson ends up getting this attraction to this girl Lola, who is Ramona's best friend. And at first, you don't really know where this is going to go, but he basically starts to develop this huge crush on her. And this is really when I started to like Jackson more. He starts to go on different dates with her, and he just, from this whole idea with these roses that came, he decides to try to go on a date with her, and it actually goes pretty well. They end up becoming friends, but then in the finale, she does end up kissing him, and I'm interested in seeing where that's going to go as well. I like seeing them give Jackson something significant to do, but like I said, Ramona didn't have much to do. She didn't have much to do in the sense that she gave that wish to Kimmy. Max really didn't have much to do, and Stephanie didn't have much to do either. But overall, guys, let me know what you guys thought of this first season. Love to hear your thoughts. And I also really like Tommy, the little kid, the baby, very cute kid. I definitely will say that, the very cute kid. And then the dog, Cosmo, I enjoyed the dog as well. Overall, guys, let me know what you guys saw this first season. Love to hear your thoughts on it. I overall really did enjoy it. And I'm going to say it again, if you guys don't like Full House, you're not going to like Fuller House. It's just that simple. It's just, I really feel that if you grew up with the show more, then you'll enjoy it a lot more than others that haven't. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on Fuller House overall. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for Pretty Little Liars. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.